Welcome back to The Line. The Albuquerque City Council voted 8-1 this week to increase the gross receipts tax by 0.3% in order to address a $40 million deficit in the city's budget and tackle the public safety crisis. Tom, going straight away, one of Mayor Keller's campaign promises was to not raise taxes unless it came with voter approval. And we did not have that. We had Ike Benton was the one holdout on council to vote no.
Brad Winter.
Was it Brad Winter? I'm sorry, my fault. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that. Was that a campaign promise that's going to come back to haunt him? Was that as so egregious that it could be a problem for him down the road?
It wasn't egregious, but it's like one in the latest. It's like a series of things that are kind of collecting for the new mayor that I think will, kind of taint the future. Because you have, him backing off now on the promise for the process of any tax increase.
Right.
You also have a new city attorney who appears to have skirted in ahead of 19 others after the deadline, who was named after the fact, and it was, doesn't really sound really good with respect to the, inspection of public records request from the Albuquerque Journal. It screams of lack of transparency. And then the third thing that is just kind of troubling is that, it was good right out of the gate where he talked about the issues with Albuquerque Rapid Transit.
Yes.
But now he keeps going back to it, and he's using a Trump-style approach of calling it Project Lemonade. And if you want to show leadership, don't throw out, don't go into name calling. Say here's what the solution is, and really work to build a solution, not to continue campaigning. Because I think that's something that a lot of electeds fall into, is that they don't know when to stop campaigning and when to start governing. And so I hope that these three kind of items will get Mayor Keller back on the governing cycle.
Interesting points there. We'll come back to a couple of those in a minute. So I know, there's a lot of throwing out there by Tom. It's interesting. A lot to think about.
Is there coffee in that cup? What do you got going on?
The idea, Sophie, that, without voter approval, the other part of it to me, when you look back at the KRQE last debate, he went to great pains, now Mayor Keller, saying there was plenty of money to be found in other places to satisfy the budget issues. And this would be a last resort. Was the last resort?
I think two things happened. One was that, in the first brief period of his mayoral term, he identified that there was a much bigger deficit than we had been led to believe, that he had been led to believe. And it really, my sense is that it really took actually being the mayor to find out about that. The second that I think is interesting is that this tax increase was passed with a veto-proof majority, such that really, I think that the mayor is going to be able to come back. If this is brought up in the future, at some point he's going to be able to say, look, whether I signed it or didn't sign it, this was going to happen. And as often happens in the political arena, people who generally like what he's doing will say, good enough for me. And people who don't like what he's doing will say, you rat. And there may not have been any way to move them off those positions anyway. And so I think if it was going to happen, the veto-proof majority probably is the best way for it to happen for this.
Good point there. Dan, to my mind, I may be wrong here, but if it did go to the voters, I don't think it would have passed. You know what I mean? I don't think voters would have gone for a tax increase in these hard times we've been having. But we have needs when it comes to public safety that are well documented. If this works, what's the harm?
Well, I think the harm is what happens with government every time they tell you they're taking money from you to do one thing and it winds up doing something else. I mean, we have a gas tax that was intended to fix the roads. We took all that money, we built trains, planes, and automobiles. I mean, you look at, they're talking about public safety on this, and then when you read that article about what constitutes public safety, it's not just the police department. So, I think that, first of all, I think it highlights the problem with Sophie's comments that happens every time they're able to snare a Republican out of this. It used to drive us crazy in the legislature when they'd always pick off one Republican out of 112, legislators. They get one Republican, and then we go and tell them how bad the bill was, and they say, well, it's bipartisan. It's a totally bipartisan piece of legislation. No, it's really not. You got one. You got one guy to vote.
We're not so sure about that one.
Right. We've been trying to send that one to you for years. I think that Sophie raises a good point. I think it's really smart for Tim Keller to do this right out of the chutes.
Okay.
Because he's got 3 years and 9 months to make up for this. I still think, though, like we talked about here, if I'm in an election, if I'm running for an election, what do people care about? They care about what I tell them to care about. And so if there's enough money that comes in that says Tim Keller lied to you, Tim Keller did this, Tim Keller did that, I think it's going to be a problem. I think this does pose a problem for Tim Keller in the long run because he is a pretty progressive Democrat, liberal Democrat. So I don't think that he saw this huge issue and, oh my gosh, he's going to fix it and he's going to, kind of tack back to the right. I think he's going to stay to the left. And the progressives seem to be doing well in Albuquerque. But, every time there seems to be an opportunity, when he says that, when Sophie says, hey, when he became mayor, maybe they was able to find some real structural problems with the budget. I'm not laughing at Sophie. I say
You're laughing with me.
I'm laughing with you. I say, well, this isn't Washington, right? He didn't become the president and all of a sudden actually got to read the real defense budget. Right. I mean, the city budget's out there. Sure. They knew it.
We've been in the hole for a couple of years.
And he's had, and look, Tim Keller has some really smart people working for him in the election. He's got some smart people working for him now. I think that it's just another example of saying what you have to say to get elected, and then I'll do what I need to do once I'm elected. I do think if he's not careful, if Tim Keller's listening to me, which he usually doesn't, if Tim Keller's careful, in politics it's rarely a single issue that causes you to fail. It's a death of 1,000 cuts. Gotcha. And when you start bringing in your own attorney outside, when you start talking about this, when you start saying, I think the tax increase would have never passed in Albuquerque because of the art project. Everybody's driving around seeing this disaster, this abomination, and knows how much money we've spent on this and says, so wait a minute, you guys went out and spent all this money on something that's not working. Now you're not sure you can do it. You're going to tax me to pay for the cops.
I think it's an important point that you maybe didn't make, but are sort of flirting with, which is you guys spent all this money. I'm not sure, I'm agreeing with you, I'm not sure that 4 years from now the electorate will distinguish money that was spent in the Berry administration from money
especially if
spent
it's not
by
fixed.
Keller.
If it's still an abomination, if it's still a crappy process, doesn't run well, people aren't using it, Tim Keller's going to own it. I mean, if it's still in operation, he's going to own it. It's
Getting back to public safety, Inez, interestingly, when you have a 400 officer deficit, that speaks loudly.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
so
mean?
does the crime numbers, right?
And the crime numbers themselves. So, he has a lot of cover here. In fact, Pat Davis had a quote saying the public's been asking us to do this. Well, we've been asking them to do something, maybe not necessarily this, but now that it's on, is he on a bit of a hook to make this work? Same question I had earlier. If crime does not significantly drop in the next 3 or 4 years, you know what I mean? What was the point there? So.
Well, I think that's why you elect people,
right,
is to see problems and then find solutions. And if you spend the money well and crime goes down, I don't believe people are going to be saying, wow, Tim Keller lied to us. Right. They're going to be saying crime went down under Tim Keller. Right. And think about him as a leftist, progressive kind of guy running in public safety. All of a sudden, he's a much broader politician than he was before.
That's a good point.
And he's had really interesting hires in this arena. I mean, I think there's real potential there for him to change our conversation. Now, it's none of us at this table is naive. We don't actually think that this chunk of money is going to solve the crime issue. It may help, but we need to see an improvement in our economy. We need to see other things change.
But there has been an attitude change, Tom, at APD. There was a press conference a couple of weeks ago with the mayor rolling out some new initiatives. Do you see what I mean? It's not like the old regime is still there at the top at APD. Right. We're trying to squeeze something that can't be squeezed anymore. It's more. It looks like there's a new team effort of some sort, a new idea moving forward on crime.
Yeah, and that's the great opportunity that Mayor Keller has, is to say, how can we make that impact on crime? Right. He does have new leadership at the top. He does still have all the same rank and file, which are fantastic people. The question is how can you create that synergy that seemed to be missing in some form or fashion under the previous administration to really create a safer place? Despite the fact that trust in police officers went up during Police Chief Eden's tenure,
oh, no kidding.
You had crime also increase as well, and it was a huge issue in the mayoral campaign. So I think it's for Mayor Keller's office to lose, and Dan's point with the death of 1,000 cuts, I really like that. I know you've said it before, but
that's all right. It worked. It worked
I'm
well.
a victim of it. Trust me.
Old saying.
We got just a minute left on this. Mr. Keller has hung his hat on. Sophie, I'll start with you on this community policing. Sort of a vague term for a lot of folks, but there is some anecdotal evidence out there that folks are seeing more officers out there cruising around downtown. You're seeing a little bit more.
I had 5
activity,
follow me on the way here today, so I don't know whether.
Well, there you go. They know your
down
plate.
Paseo.
That's why. You know what I mean? That's an
Yeah.
idea, but again, results have to come at some point.
Well, and
so.
community policing program is going to put a lot of pressure on APD if they're not able to not just do hiring, but also, frankly, get cadets through their training programs.
Right.
And that
Bigger
has been the
percentages.
bottleneck that
That's
has
right.
been a real problem for people. And then I think that long term there's a pay issue for APD, and it's not just at the hiring level, but it's
Right.
all the way through.
That's right.
You know, one of the things that I think that Albuquerque needs to be aware of is when we see a tax increase like this, it doesn't exist in a vacuum, and some of it comes from the fact that our legislature has not been able to get new revenue through this governor for almost 8 years. And so it then falls to the city. I guess suppose the advantage is we get to spend our own money instead of sending Albuquerque's money to another part of the state or vice versa. But you know, we've got issues where we lost hold harmless money, and there have been
a lot of money.
We've got costs to the city, et cetera. That so let's think of it this way: is we're maybe getting some more direct taxation, and
Rio
less
Rancho,
diffuse taxation.
Rio Rancho says keep raising your gross receipts. You guys keep raising it.
Right, it's a battle. Exactly.
The river's not that long of a drive when the gross receipts tax is
That's
high
right.
enough.
Exactly. When we return to the line, we'll look at the fight over water here in New Mexico.